Room 313. I've worked at St. Jude's Medical Center for 5 years, mostly day shifts. The pay isn't great, but it's steady. And after a while, you get used to the smell of disinfectant and the constant beeping of monitors. Last winter, when a flu outbreak hit, management asked for volunteers to cover extra night shifts. I needed the overtime badly. I didn't even hesitate. I wish I had. My first night shift started quietly. The halls felt wrong, too empty. Flu season meant we were full, but most patients were sedated, and their families had gone home. The lighting was dim, humming faintly like a dying light bulb. By midnight, the hospital was a different world. There's something about hospitals after hours that feels unnatural, like the building itself is asleep, but still breathing. You start hearing things, distant coughing, footsteps that never approach, and the echo of metal wheels even when there's no gurney in sight. I was assigned to the 3rd floor, the long-term care unit. My coworker, Jamie, gave me a quick tour, pointing out the rooms. "Don't worry about 313, she said casually. "It's been sealed since before I started here." "Sealed? Why?" I asked. She shrugged. "Old storage room, not in use. Just make sure it stays locked." That was the first red flag I ignored. The first knock, around 2:40 a.m. I was doing rounds, checking vitals. The hallway was silent, except for the occasional hiss of the ventilation system. As I passed room 313, I heard it, a faint knocking from inside. 3 short taps. I froze. The room was dark, no light under the door. I leaned closer. Then came another knock, faster, desperate. "Hello?" I whispered, instantly regretting it. No answer, just silence. I told myself it was the building settling, or maybe a cart bumping somewhere down the hall. I moved on, but my heart was still hammering. Later, when I returned to the nurse's station, Jamie was gone. I checked the break room, empty. Then I noticed something on the floor. A hospital bracelet. It was one of ours, labeled P. Henderson, room 313. But the print was faded, yellowed, like it had been sitting for years. The record. At 4 a.m., I couldn't ignore it anymore. I logged into the old system and searched for the name. Patient, Patricia Henderson, admitted 2003. Status, deceased. There were no details, just a single note in red text. Do not assign. Room decommissioned. I stared at the screen, cold creeping up my spine. Before I could process it, I heard something down the hall, a soft scraping, like metal dragging against tile. I turned the corner. The door to room 313 was slightly open. Inside, every instinct screamed at me to call security. But I stepped closer instead, phone flashlight in hand. The air around that door was freezing. When I pushed it open, the hinges groaned. Inside was nothing but an old hospital bed and a toppled IV stand. The walls were yellowed from age. The light flickered weakly from a single overhead bulb. Then I saw the bed. The sheets were wrinkled, freshly wrinkled, as if someone had just gotten up. I took one step closer. That's when I heard it. "Dash, nurse?" A woman's voice, faint, trembling. I spun around, scanning the shadows. No one. Then, another whisper, closer this time. "Help me." My phone flashlight flickered out completely. For a split second, I thought I saw movement at the corner of the room. A figure sitting upright on the bed, head tilted, watching me. When the lights came back on, the bed was empty. The vanishing, I ran straight to the station, shaking. Jamie was there again, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. "Where did you go earlier?" I demanded. She frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I've been here the whole time." I told her about the bracelet, the voice, the open door. Her expression changed immediately. Room 313 doesn't even have a handle anymore, she said quietly. It was welded shut after that patient died. We went back together. Sure enough, welded, solid, no gap, no movement. And yet, right there on the handle was a fresh fingerprint smudge. The last shift. I didn't take another night shift after that. A week later, maintenance reported hearing crying from the 3rd floor after midnight. Security footage showed something stranger. The door to room 313 swinging open on its own, though it had been sealed for decades. I tried to tell myself I imagined it, that exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But last night, when I came in for my regular day shift, something stopped me cold. A new patient chart was waiting on my desk. Name, Patricia Henderson. Room 313. Admitting nurse, my name. Epilogue, I haven't gone back. But sometimes, late at night, my phone buzzes with an unknown number. When I answer, there's only silence. Then, faintly, nurse. Room 313 has reopened itself, and the haunting may have followed the narrator home. It's been 3 weeks since I left St. Jude's. I told my manager I couldn't handle the night shifts anymore. Technically, that wasn't a lie. I just didn't tell them why. I've been trying to convince myself it was exhaustion, that my mind invented everything that happened in room 313. But the human brain doesn't replay delusions every night. It doesn't knock on your bedroom wall at 2:40 a.m. I moved apartments a week after quitting. Smaller, older, but farther from the hospital. I thought distance would help. It didn't. The first sign. The first few nights were quiet. I slept for hours dreamless. Then, one evening, I heard it again, the beeping. Soft, rhythmic, exactly like the heart monitor from the 3rd floor. I sat up, staring into the dark. The sound was faint, coming from the living room. I walked out, phone flashlight trembling in my hand. The sound stopped the second I entered. Everything was still. The TV unplugged, fridge silent. But when I looked down at the table, there was something sitting on the wood that hadn't been there before. A hospital bracelet. Faded. Plastic. Labeled P. Henderson, room 313. I dropped it like it burned me. The dreams. After that night, I started dreaming about her. Patricia Henderson. At least, I think it was her. I never saw her chart photo, but the woman in my dreams is pale, thin, with sunken eyes that never blink. She lies on a hospital bed, whispering something I can never quite make out, except one word: help. Every night she looks weaker, closer to dying, or already dead. I wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing. The digital clock always reads 2:40 a.m. every single time. The voice in the walls. One evening, my upstairs neighbor knocked on my door. A man in his 40s, kind face but clearly tired. "Sorry," he said. "You okay down here?" "Yeah, why?" "I keep hearing, like, voices from your apartment. A woman crying. It's been happening for days." I froze. No one else lives here. He looked uneasy. "Then who keeps saying nurse at 3 in the morning?" The shift at home. I tried recording the sounds, hoping to prove it was all in my head. I left my phone on record overnight. When I listened the next morning, most of it was silence. But around the 2-hour mark, there was static, and through it, a faint voice. "Nurse." Then the sound of footsteps, slow, dragging. The recording ended with a single, distinct beep. Just one, like a flat line. The return. I told myself I needed closure, that the only way to stop this was to go back. So last Friday, I drove to St. Jude's. The parking lot was empty, except for a few staff cars. I shouldn't have been there. I didn't care. Inside, everything was quieter than I remembered. The security guard recognized me and waved me through. I told him I'd left something in my locker. Instead, I went straight to the third floor. A hallway looked the same, sterile, empty, humming with low fluorescent light. But when I turned the corner toward room 313, I stopped. The door was gone. In its place was a blank wall, freshly painted, like the room had never existed. I stood there for a full minute, trying to breathe. Then, from the other side of that wall, came the sound I'd been dreading. 3 soft knocks. The haunting grows. I left the hospital shaking. But the haunting didn't stop. It intensified. Objects move when I'm not looking. My apartment smells faintly of antiseptic and cold air. I keep finding things from the hospital. A syringe cap, an empty IV bag, an old ID tag I've never seen before. The other night, my TV flickered on by itself, static filling the screen. And faintly, through the noise, I could hear breathing. Then a voice whispered from the speakers, "Check her vitals." The visit. Last night was the worst. I woke up to the sound of something dripping. When I turned on the light, I saw wet footprints leading from my bathroom to my bed. At the end of the trail, resting on my pillow, was that same hospital bracelet. But this time, it had my name on it. Room 313. I ran. I slept in my car until sunrise. When I finally went back inside, everything looked untouched. The footprints, the bracelet, gone. But when I opened my bathroom cabinet, I saw a small mirror I'd never noticed before. Someone had written on it in red marker, code blue. The last entry. I started keeping a journal, trying to track the events logically. But every morning, when I reread what I wrote, entire sections are crossed out in handwriting that isn't mine. The latest entry just says, "Admit patient, transferred to room 313. I've stopped sleeping." The line between waking and dreaming feels thinner each night. Sometimes I hear the hospital monitors, even when my phone is off. Last night, I recorded myself again. When I played it back, there was a faint voice over my breathing. "Welcome back, nurse." Then silence, except one final beep, long, flat, like a heart monitor giving up. "This morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address." Inside was a folded patient form, crisp, official, with the St. Jude's logo. It listed one new admission. Patient, Patricia Henderson. Admitting nurse, my name. Room 313. Status, ongoing. Room 313 is gone from the hospital, but it's found a new home. It's been 4 months since I left St. Jude's. At least, that's what I keep telling myself. But lately, I can't tell where I am anymore. I used to wake up to sunlight. Now it's always dark. Not pitch black, just dim, like hospital lighting through frosted glass. My apartment smells faintly of bleach. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I hear the air vents humming, the same hollow, rhythmic sigh of the third floor. I stopped working weeks ago. I barely leave the apartment. Every time I do, something follows me back. Faint whispers, the soft squeak of wheels, the click of IV poles being rolled down a hallway that doesn't exist here. The calls. It started with the phone. Every night, 2:40 a.m., the same time everything happened. The call always comes from unknown. When I answer, I hear the beeping. Not random, not static. It's a heart monitor. Slow at first, then faster, like panic. Then faintly, "Nurse." I've tried recording it, but playback never captures the sound. It's always replaced by a hiss, like oxygen flow. Once, I picked up and said, "Patricia, what do you want?" There was silence. Then a woman's voice whispered, clear as day, "Check your vitals." The file. 2 weeks ago, I got an envelope slipped under my door. Same plain type, same paper as the last one. Inside was a patient file, except this time, the name field was blank. Under admitting nurse, it listed me again, but under patient, someone had scrawled by hand, "In observation, condition deteriorating." And beneath that, in faint pencil, "Transfer approved, room 313. I threw it out, or at least I thought I did. The next morning, it was sitting back on my table. Only this time, it was signed. The blackout, I started blacking out. Sometimes for minutes, sometimes for hours. Once, I woke up sitting in my car, parked outside St. Jude's. I don't remember driving there. My hands were shaking, and there was a faint dusting of white powder on the passenger seat, the kind used for latex gloves. When I looked in the rearview mirror, my reflection was wearing a hospital badge. It read, "Admitting, night shift." I haven't owned a badge in months. The apartment changes things are missing, the clocks, the curtains, even my own name from the mail slot. The walls are sterile white now. I don't remember painting them. The floor tiles, they look like the ones from the hospital hall. Sometimes, when I blink, the layout of the apartment changes. The kitchen turns into a nurse's station. My bathroom becomes a supply closet. I used to think it was stress, sleep deprivation. But now the light never changes. The air never moves. Last night, I tried leaving. I opened my front door and stepped into a hallway lined with numbered doors. 313 was at the end. The return. I don't remember walking there, but I remember opening the door. Inside was the same bed, the same sheets, freshly wrinkled. The air was freezing. Something was lying under the blanket. I thought it was Patricia. I whispered her name. The figure sat up slowly, and it wasn't her, it was me. Same uniform, same exhausted eyes. Except her ID badge didn't say nurse. It said patient. I stumbled back. The other me smiled, lips cracked, voice dry. Vitals stable, transferring care. Then everything went white. Observation notes. I woke up in a room that smelled of disinfectant. The ceiling light buzzed softly. There was a monitor beside my bed. Steady rhythm. My wrist had an ID band. Name, my name. Room 313. Status under observation. I tried pulling the IV out, but a voice came from the intercom. "Don't move, nurse. You're still in recovery." My mouth went dry. "Who's speaking?" The voice paused. "You are." I don't know how long I've been here. Days, weeks, maybe longer. Sometimes I hear other patients, but their voices all sound the same. Like mine, echoed through a hallway that never ends. Every morning, someone slides a new chart under my door. Every chart has the same two signatures. Patient, admitting nurse, Patricia Henderson. The lights flicker when I say her name. Sometimes I think I see her reflection in the glass. Sometimes, I think she's the one keeping me alive. Sometimes, I think she's waiting for me to die. I keep trying to remember if I ever really left St. Jude's. But every time I close my eyes, I hear the same sound. A long, steady beep. Then silence. And then, faintly, next admission ready. Room 313. The nurse is now both patient and caretaker, trapped in an endless loop within room 313, whether it's madness, purgatory, or the hospital itself, feeding on the living. No one leaves room 313. Recovered security footage log, St. Jude's Medical Center Archive. Date, April 17. Redacted. Department, Internal Surveillance, 3rd floor East Wing. Recovered by maintenance crew during building closure. Camera system, model HX92. Motion triggered. Status, flagged. Restricted access. Footage begins in low light mode. Hallway appears empty. Background audio, faint ventilation hum. An elevator door opens at the far end of the hall. No personnel logged on duty. A lone figure exits. Female, wearing outdated nurse scrubs. Badge unreadable. The figure pauses before room 313. Note: room 313 does not exist in current floor plan. Space officially walled off during 2007 renovation. 0418. Audio distortion begins. Soft beeping pattern detected. Resembles cardiac monitor. On Zoom freeze, ID tag appears to read, subject same as missing nurse. She raises one hand, presses against the wall where the door should be. Wall shifts, surface rippling slightly. Unknown light source glows from behind the concrete. 3 knocks heard from inside the wall. The figure whispers, transfer complete. 235, static surge. Audio peaks at 113 decibel. Frame collapses into white noise. 300, camera B, nurse station. Empty desk. One computer monitor turns on by itself. Screen displays patient chart. Patient. Name redacted. Room 313. Admitting nurse. Patricia Henderson. Status: active care. Printer activates automatically. Paper feeds out blank except for a faint heartbeat line across the page. 11. Camera C, hull cross-section. All lights flicker simultaneously. Wall clock stops at 2:40 a.m. A female voice is heard over the PA system. Tone identical to the missing nurse. Code blue, repeat. Code blue in room 313. There is no room 313 listed in the current hospital system. 452. Camera A, reconnected hallway, empty again. A single hospital bracelet lies on the floor. Label, name, unregistered. Room 313. Heartbeat monitor sound fades to flatline. Final status, file auto-corrupts. Playback stops at time 05. Attempted duplication returns error message. Live feed in progress. Recovered technician note, handwritten. We removed all cameras after this. The hallway's gone now, just concrete. But every night, motion sensors still trigger at 2:40 a.m. And the system keeps opening a new folder labeled admissions. It fills itself with footage we never shot. Final status. Case closed. Building decommissioned. Unresolved anomaly. Room 313 continues to appear in network directories across multiple St. Jude's facilities.